Hello and welcome to episode 2 of our Something Rotten miniseries on the video game Max Payne, as well as Max Payne 2, which we'll get to in the future. Blake, this is the fucking Blakiest Something Rotten game we've had in a while. Are you happy?
By God, Jacob, I'm so happy. It's been a great season to be a little man in New York City, playing a game about a little man also in New York City. It's been awesome. I've been having the time of my damn life. I've been using cheat codes. And that's all I have to say about that, because I've been getting some comments from these listeners about whether I can play games or not. I use cheat codes, but I won't say which ones.
Yeah, you... No, the nude one is in Max Payne 2, right?
Oh, hey, here's the thing.
That's right. Joining us now, one of the many stars of Game Query, now on MinMax, host of MinMax Bonus Pod, which is just a whole new podcast that MinMax is doing now. Haley MacLean is here. Welcome.
Yippee! I'm such a Something Rotten fangirl. My biggest fangirl alert. Excited to be here.
Hi, Haley. Blake Hester Game Query here. Quick question. Are you a fucking lawyer yet?
I'm a lawyer! Yippee!
All right, right on.
Haley, having you on this episode was a bit of a calculated ask for us, because it's like the second half of a game is really, it's like we're asking you to play a whole game, and both of us were like, you know who fucking plays games is Haley MacLean. Like,
you know who won't be annoyed?
You just fucking, like, get through games. And so we knew that if we asked you to, like, be on the second half of this, you would get through Max Payne.
And I love the excuse to play Max Payne, because that's one of those ones that's been hanging on my head for years. I love Max Payne 3. Played that a bunch of times. Whoop. I'm just saying that so Blake will like me. But I'm so excited that I finally have played, especially with the remakes on Horizon. Oh, what a good time to play the old one, because once the remakes come out, I'm going to be real with myself. I wouldn't go back and play, I just know that there's not enough time, but I would do it now. And now I want to play 2.
Oh, yeah, here's the thing. 2 is where the real nostalgia is for me, and it's not because of the Monosax nude mod. But, well, it plays into it slightly, but...
Because, Haley, you are, it's like you had played Max Payne 3 in the past, but you're a relatively recent, but also big Remedy head now, right? Because, like, you went wild for Alan Wake 2, as did both of us, and, like, played Control and all the DLCs, and played Alan Wake 1, right? Like, now you've kind of gone through... Have you played Quantum Break?
No.
Like, are you that far
I
in?
need to play Quantum Break, so...
Okay, hold on. 2 questions. 1, Quantum Break, Haley. Good game, right? This game's fucking cool. 2, you did all of this in the last year?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because I realized, wow, Alan Wake 1 is really good. And I want to play more Remedy stuff because, hey,
Holy
I love
shit.
this thing. That's what got me started was Alan Wake. That was the first one I played.
That's so cool, dude.
Follow-up question. Did you pop off when the code 665 was in this game? And he said,
so
the neighbor of the
excited.
beast?
Oh my God, I was in bed playing, I leaned over to my partner. I was like, neighbor of the beast! I was like, hell yeah! Like, oh my God, the references! It feels so good.
It's so fun to see things that have, like, become their thing and be like, this is where it started. This is where 665 is from. Unless it was in fucking Kill Drive or whatever their first game was called.
Oh, that, yeah. What was that game? Death Rally or something like that? I can't remember.
It's Death Rally. Thank you very much, folks. Haley, but Quantum Break. That's a good game, right?
The one I haven't played. You're going to keep asking?
Oh, I thought you said you had played
I thought you were raking me over the coals. Like, come on, girl, you haven't played Quantum Break yet. I'm like, the one Remedy game I haven't played.
It's a classic mistake of you saying haven't and me hearing had. That classic
game
foible.
blunder.
Yeah, hey, the thing about Quantum Break is it's fucking good, man. You gotta check that shit out.
Is the TV show shit good?
No.
Okay. It's like, what I've been confused on with that game is, would I have to watch the TV show when I played it? Or can you just, like, fully skip it?
I don't think you can skip it. I don't really remember. One of the things I love doing, and I think we've talked about on the show a little bit, is charting mechanical growth throughout a developer's history, not through a series history, a developer's. And like where Quantum Break sits in between like Max Payne, Alan Wake, and Control is like very fascinating to see them like, I don't know. You just got to play it. It's very fascinating.
Is that kind of like the catalyst period where their vibe really starts taking off, so to speak?
Well, Max Payne 1 and 2 like have such rad gameplay. And then Alan Wake 1 and 2, but 1 for the sake of this conversation. I feel like it's cool, it's interesting, but it's not like Max Payne on mouse and keyboards tight, right? And like I don't remember enough about Quantum Break to remember if it felt like super good, but I remember it being like very, very interesting and like what they were trying to do with the powers and how that would like impact gameplay. And then their next game being Control, which I think plays excellently with all its powers and everything. Like Quantum Break is a very, very interesting period in their history of them like getting to what is essentially their magnum opus, I feel like, until Alan Wake Control.
It is funny to think about, like, I think the shooting in this game, which released in 2001, feels so much better than the shooting in Alan Wake 2,
That's so
which released
fair.
in 2023.
I mean, yeah, but do you think there's any intentionality there with Alan Wake 2? It's like one of those...
I mean, obviously, the games are going for, like, different fields, but, like, I don't like how shooting feels in I think the combat in that game is like pretty weak.
I remember,
and it's weird just to see it like go back, 22 years, and they're making a very different game, but being like, no, they can make shooting feel real good. Like this studio can make guns hit.
Lest we forget, Control felt real fucking good.
Control is again, it's a very different style. It's like I like how not floaty Max Payne is. I do like how just like grounded is, and it's just like you just shoot someone with a gun and they go down. And Control, you're fighting monsters and you're flying around, and so it has a little bit less of just like boom impact guy dead.
Haley, Blake Hester game query, quick question.
Okay.
You fuck with Max Payne?
Oh, I'm fucking with Max Payne.
Yeah.
It was good. I liked it. I literally finished right before we started recording. And I when I was playing it a couple hours ago, I had to pull up a playthrough and like skip to where I was to make sure I had enough time to finish it before the pod. I was like, thank God I have enough time. The last bit was hard.
Important question, because I was worried about this when you were posting your kind of pictures of playing it. How did you play this? Like, what were you playing it on?
I have questions about how you did this, Haley. Oh my God.
Jacob so kindly told me how to download this on PC, the problems PC modders have with making sure this game runs, and then I was like, that sounds like I have to think. I'm going to just download it on PlayStation and play it on PlayStation, because it was like $9. I was like, sure. And also,
the most, it's like, I thought you did that because you had like, you were playing it on like the PlayStation
Portal.
Portal, not portable. Does that version have a quick save?
No.
Oh my God. Does it have what are the checkpoints like in that game? Because I literally quick saved before going through every single door.
Oh wow. No, I was going back, and you can't skip. You can skip the graphic novel like iterations, like so once he starts talking, you can skip those, but you can't skip cinematic cutscenes. So sometimes there'll be this long ass cinematic cutscene, and then it jumps you into this crazy fight, and I might have only had like a little health, die, and then I have to watch the whole like minute and a half cutscene again, and then try to fight it again. And I didn't know there was quick saves in the PC version. That would have been a game changer. But honestly, it kind of threw me back to being a kid a little bit. It kind of was fun in that way, where I was just like, damn it, and I just sat there and angrily looked at the cutscene, and it's like, now I have even more drive to make sure I do this perfect, otherwise I gotta watch that stupid scene again.
I mean, like, playing Max Payne, this is something we have talked about with Max Payne 3, we're talking about it here, as like mouse and keyboard for Max Payne, as like once you feel it, it's all you ever want. How did this thing, but especially as a fucking PS2 game, how did it feel on controller?
Not great. I'm not gonna lie, Blake, it didn't feel great. It wasn't the greatest. Woo! The problem was, whenever I looked up with the joysticks, I could shoot for maybe 4.5 seconds, and it would auto put your vision back down to the middle of the screen. So I'd be like, and then it would go zoom and sit me down, and I had to go back up. So it kept doing that.
we said you were a champ for playing this game for us before we knew that you did this shit.
It was...
Thank you very much for playing through this and being on Something Rotten.
I'm excited to talk about it.
I put God mode on and didn't die. It was easy.
I died so much.
I mean, it is a death heavy game, and like a really kind of a game that has fun with fucking you over, where you just like walk into a room and a grenade drops at your feet and you just explode, and it's like, well, guess that's it. Guess I'm doing that again.
It's really interesting in that way because rather than, I don't know, other third-person shooters, like behind-the-back type games that we have these days, it does feel like it has more in common with, like, a Hotline Miami or, like, a Celeste or remember Titan Souls? That was a cool game. Like, one of those, like, one-hit, you're dead type things. It's not a one-hit, and you're dead game, but it really
grenades
plays...
are super one-hit, you're dead.
Right.
They're dropping everywhere like freaking crazy.
Like, it totally plays like those games, right? Like, you have to, like, recalibrate. I say as someone who played with fucking God mode on, but, like, nonetheless, like, you totally kind of, like, have to think about the game in a, like, room-by-room basis.
Hotline Miami is a cool comparison. That's a very apt thing to note. It really did feel like, oh, go in, check if it's safe, tease it, and then back up, and then decide how you want to enter the room to make sure the angles are perfect, slow down. Yeah, that's a really good comparison.
And I think like Hotline or like any of those kind of death-heavy games, the way that the game plays isn't really... sometimes you're going through an environment and discovering where guys are and organically killing them the first time. But far more often for me, it was kind of going into somewhere, getting killed, then like memorizing the spawn locations, and so I could kind of kill the guys as soon as they came out, or even, throw a grenade back into the corner that I knew they were sitting in before it even started. Like, it feels like it almost wants you to play it with this pre-existing knowledge of where everyone's coming from. And I imagine on the like higher difficulty levels, which you unlock when you beat the game, it's like that's probably absolutely necessary, because I can't imagine playing on a difficulty that was higher than the one that I played on.
Oh my god, I'm thinking of that one when you come into the last building that you fight what's her name in. It's like they all come around the corner with the elevators, and when you turn the corner, there's also like 9 of them up in the rafters.
The grenade launcher fuckers. Oh my god.
So the grenade launcher guys I got after about 2 deaths. I was like, okay, I figured out this is one of those ones where there was a cutscene before where they pan up the entire building and go, and they're like the snow looked like God's dandruff or like whatever the hell he says every 10 seconds. And then, but I could not for the life of me figure out where the guys who killed me in that around the corner room where I died maybe 10 times, and I looked at a playthrough to figure out where they were, and I was like, they're up there. Like, I didn't even have time to look up and figure it out. So then I had to peek with the sniper one at a time for 1 second to kill each one of them. Oh,
I did exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
So where we left off in this playthrough, Max had he had killed a satanic guy who was howling like a wolf. Haley, did you like that part?
I did. He was interesting. What did he say? God's blood is green and it's in me, and I'm Lilith. Or he just was screaming.
But we basically we talked to this Russian dude, and he's like, go kill this guy on a ship. I don't know. But the next several levels, I was like, oh baby, this feels like New Jersey, because you're in a shipping yard and you're just kind of going through this like fucking ugly snowy shipping yard, and I was like, this is like New Jersey.
Yeah, sure, it's actually Red Hook, Brooklyn, but nevertheless,
it has the energy of New Jersey, Blake. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know what it is. I think,
but
I'm pretty sure it's Red Hook, but fun.
All right.
It's
but
really important.
These levels I really enjoyed because you get the sniper rifle, which I think is fun, and I did not expect that they were already doing the sniper elite ass.
Yes, that was so unexpected.
All the way to the guy. It's like 2001 they were doing that shit.
I know.
Isn't it cool that Children of the Sun is just a game that does that?
Yeah, true.
Yep.
I want to play that because he always tweets about it.
It's so fucking good. Haley.
It's good. But I also really enjoyed I think what's fun about this level, and some of the levels coming up, is like, how do you make this a kind of non-fantastical, grounded game where you're going through pretty realistic city environments, but still make it interesting to kind of play? And this level seems like it's kind of the best one of those, because you have these just like big machines that people are like driving around, and they're like, you know, they're kind of like driving shipping containers at you, and then at one point you get on top of this big moving thing and you're like sniping people as it goes through. And it was, you know, I think a lot of the levels in this section are kind of just like, here's a level where you're gonna kill a bunch of guys, and there's not that much memorable that happens other than that, but like the killing guys remained fresh because they managed to kind of throw in just enough little twists that I was still engaged.
And that's interesting in 2001, because I think most of us were pretty content with just killing guys, especially at our personal ages when in 2001. So to also have killing guys and duck in this corner because the guy is driving a forklift thing that'll smash you with a box. Like, that got me the first time, and I was like, oh, and that just made it so much more fun to come back and know exactly where to run and stuff. That was... Yeah, that section was really memorable for me, too. And honestly, the sniper rifle, I didn't use it too much, but the sections where it was apparent they wanted me to use it were a lot more fun, having had it.
You know what I was getting, Blake? The vibes from this section and the ship section, I was feeling the Darkness 1.
Oh, shit.
Do you remember that there were levels that were very similar to this, kind of set in a shipping yard and then jumping on like a big tanker? And it was a nice little connection.
I felt it.
Go ahead.
I felt it.
And it was New Jersey that you felt?
No, those games don't take place in New Jersey.
Where is the Darkness set in New Jersey?
Set in New York.
Probably New York too.
Max Payne 3 is in New Jersey. Max Payne 2 inconclusive. Max Payne 1, though, his family, he lives in New Jersey. So you do go there in the flashback and the
so
dream
much
sequences.
explanation.
However, the first half of the game is largely in the Bronx. Then you go to New Jersey then you go to Brooklyn for a bit. You go to Brooklyn for a bit, and then I believe you're in the financial district at the end, or Midtown. It would be either of those. I've lived here for 5 months. I know my way.
Max Payne 3 has one of my favorite lines where he's describing the apartment that he got, and he says, It was certainly in New Jersey. And I always laugh when he says that. Anyway, this ship is fun to fight through. I had a really a lovely moment where I was fighting a guy and he threw a grenade at me and it bounced off the ceiling and just back and hit him and then exploded. And I was like, hell yeah, love that.
That's what I was saying last episode. Like, it's really funny when the AI makes mistakes in this game.
Yep.
I have a question for you all.
Yes.
That I think is great to come at any point here, because it really afflicted me the whole game. The story does not particularly strike me as a complex story, but I had the damnedest time following it. Did you all struggle with this too?
A little bit, yeah. There's just a lot of male names that are all crime bosses, so it was hard to remember whose crime boss house I'm infiltrating currently.
Yeah, and you're kind of, because it's like, there's a cutscene here, and it's like, okay, someone wants to kill the mayor? That's a part of it, but then that plot line, I feel like I have a hard time in a lot of kind of crime stories of this nature, because it is just like, it's just remembering names. And I would say that I am not good at remembering names as a general rule. And so, like, yeah, you kind of have these characters and you're always, it's like, is this guy gonna be important, or am I just gonna kill him in 10 minutes and then he's never going to be referenced again? And most of the time you just kill him in 10 minutes.
And also, like, the main antagonist switches depending on how much information you get. Like, don't you think it's that Joey guy for a bit, and then it switches to Panchetti or whatever his name is, and then it's the normal woman. Yeah, Panchetti. It's so, I kept being like, oh, I gotta pay attention to this guy. Oh, he's dead. What was his name? And then it would just keep moving forward before I could remember.
It's interesting playing it because, like, the story feels pretty amateurish, but, like, also clearly written by someone who is a talented writer. So it's like, even though it's hard to follow and it's not great, it's still somehow a lot better than most games, just by nature of it. Feels like someone who like is a writer is working on it. Does that make sense?
The monologues were super, a writer wrote this, and it was fun. I almost had a tally in my head to like, did that one hit or was it too cheesy? It was pretty 50-50.
But even the cheesy shit feels self-aware though, which I think is an important distinction.
But sometimes they were like, that sounds like it could be in a book, and that would still be good.
No, some of these were like good that I wrote down, and then some are very like, you're trying really hard. The one that I laughed at because it was trying so hard was when you go to that mansion and there are like 3 mobsters in it, and Max says, upstairs, the trio tangos down the manor halls to the silent rhythm of their murderous hearts. I was like, oh, we're really going on a journey with that metaphor. But I do think, as part of this being a noir story, like a lot of the noir genre is kind of cop who's looking for one person finds themselves embroiled in a conspiracy that they realize is much larger than them. And that absolutely happens to almost a comical degree in this game. But, like, I do think that it works within the genre, that it, like, the idea of, like, oh, this goes all the way to the top is kind of a noir idea. Because Max ultimately, like, he doesn't win. He doesn't, like, wipe out corruption. He just kind of kills one person who he wanted to.
I always feel like stories like this, though, by the time you get to the end, the grandiosity, however you pronounce it,
both,
it always loses me. And I really was feeling that here. Like, I really just, like, I love the intimacy of the beginning half of noir stories, and by the time everything is, like, unraveling, and you're like, it goes to the fucking top, I'm like, I can't fucking deal with it. And I felt that playing the last third here was, like, just kind of detached mentally from, like, caring in a lot of ways.
I felt like that too, but then I really liked what they did at the end when she was just on the PA system being like, you're not gonna get me, Payne, and then meanwhile you're like, you're just absolutely mowing down guys.
There is a hilarious voice line from her during that where you just hear her go, what do you mean you can't stop
That's what I was gonna say. Yes, and
what
then
do you mean he's unstoppable?
And it's like that's when that really the satirical kind of vibe of this, and also like it goes to the top, you say, as you climb a massive corporation tower called, and they keep saying closer to heaven, Winky looks stare in the camera or whatever. I was like, okay, this is really tropey, but I like that as long as they wink at me from the camera, I'm kind of like, hee, they're smarter than me, I trust them to do this.
But it's one of those things where it's like, it's the same with Resident Evil, right? Like the best part of any Resident Evil game is the opening 2.5 hours, and then as it gets bigger and bigger, you're like, all right, what the fuck ever. Like, I was feeling that in this last third of this game.
I think that it works that they make Horn, the kind of bad lady villain, ultimately responsible pretty directly for his wife and child's murder. And so then it's like okay, there's the connection there. And so you kind of feel her, but I was definitely with you, Blake. It's like when you go into like a subterranean military complex, I was just like, what are we doing? Like this just feels like a required level in a video game, is you have to fight through a lab that looks like Half-Life. And so we had that section. I have a bit of casting trivia to share with you. Nicole Horn, the big bad lady.
She looks like my mom's
she's voiced,
friend. Do you guys get that?
Well, she's voiced by Jane Gennaro, who's a American voice actress, playwright, whatever. However,
playwright? Hold on, what do you mean playwright? That's not.
This is what it says on her Wikipedia.
No one's ever like,
page.
Troy Baker, that playwright.
That was a weird one. She was a comedy writer and performer from 1977 to 84. In 1988, she wrote a solo play called The Boob Story.
Woo! Interesting.
The show was described as a cautionary serial-comic monologue about breast fetishism in America and the perils of getting too much of what one wants.
Yeah, you know what? Stuff it, vagina monologues. You weren't the first one. I don't know what the vagina monologues
This was probably a direct response to the vagina monologues. But anyway, that's not what I was going to say. So that's the voice actor. However, the face actor for Nicole Horn is played by Sam Lake's mother.
I knew you were going to say that in some weird way. I was like, I bet it's Sam Lake's mom. In it?
We talked about this on episode 1.
We did?
Yeah, we didn't say the specific character, but I was like, I'm pretty sure Sam Lake's mom and dad are in this game.
Okay, well, knowing that Sam Lake cast his mom as the ultimate kill at the end of the game, who killed his wife and child,
It's not
pretty
that
funny.
Something
It's funny.
unresolved there in their family, maybe.
I don't think it's that deep.
I just think it's very funny because she does look like a mom,
She does,
you know,
yeah.
and
She
it's like
does.
it's funny.
She looks like someone I know. Like, you know what? Not that
Yeah.
I can even name a name. It's just all the people in this is so fun that it's like those people just work at Remedy, I think, and they
Yeah.
just got
Yes.
them to take pictures of them, which I kind of liked. It was charming.
Leo referenced, yeah, it's like, wow, this gangster really looks like a baby-faced game developer. It's because they took a picture of him and put it on the guy's face.
Yeah, literally. Can you howl for me? And they're just like at their desk at Remedy, like.
Well, I think the voice acting remains good throughout this game.
Sure.
Like even if it is Remedy employees, which it sounds like they got professionals for a lot of them.
I don't think it is because they're not Finnish.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because
Finnish people can only ever have an accent 1,000,000% of the time. I feel like
Come on, I'm just saying. I just believe. I'm sorry, I don't think 1998 Remedy employees had the best American accent.
I've heard Sam Lake talking now. He's not playing a convincing American.
that's so fair.
Going back to the ship, there's a very fun room, and I love when games do this, where it's like, you kill the boss, he's in the bottom of the ship, whatever, and then you walk into a room, and it's like, you've heard that this guy is a gun runner, and like, the room does just have like 100 guns that you can pick up in it, and it's the first place in the game where you get the assault rifle, which is like, easily the best gun in the game, and so I like that it's just kind of like... It's kind of like when you go into a treasure room in an RPG and they literally let you pick up like every piece of gold. And you're like, yeah, this isn't set dressing. I get to take all these guns.
It feels so good to walk along the row of stuff and just hear ting, 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 and just like get to pick everything up. That feels awesome.
Yeah, or you open the pill cabinet and it's just like all 4 of them just go into your inventory.
Yeah, some of the fucking Foley work in this game, unbelievable shit going on. The guns sound so good. Like
the guns sound great. I was playing this on like pretty loud the other day, and it's like hearing individual clips hit the floor when you reload. You know, it's like the pistol clip, not only does it like have physics and stays there, but like you can hear when he drops it, and it's like it's a different sound from when he reloads the shotgun and like shells come out and hit the floor. Like it's really detailed.
I wonder if my version had that. Now I'm trying to remember if I heard any of that or if the PlayStation version is crappier.
I mean, it is. I would be curious putting them side by side because one of the things we talked about in the first episode is like this was a PC powerhouse game. You know, they were like, look at how good this game looks. And so I wonder if the PS2 one had to be like pretty pared down in terms of effects or whatever.
I mean, it was kind of fun to see like the PS2 interface. Like every time when I went into a new area, it would say saving to your PlayStation 2 memory card trademark, and like had all that stuff show up on the screen. I was like, oh, I want to be a kid again. It hit different.
Another thing that I was just struck by playing through this kind of section where not a lot happens story-wise is the comic book panels, which we talked about last week. A great way to tell the story. I was really struck by like how artfully framed a lot of them were, that it's not just them taking a picture of Sam Lake in a trench coat and putting words on it. It's like there is really... It seems like it's made by people who like care about comic books, because like and Blake, maybe you can speak on this because you know more about comics than I do, but like just kind of like the variety of angles they get, like I can't imagine that they had any like real sets for this, but like they make the characters look like they are places. You know, they are like photoshopping the actors into their situations really well.
Yeah, and they also do comic book things, like they'll do repeating panels if it conveys something better than just like moving on to the next panel. Like there's that one, I remember that one point where the guy's out in the snow. It's the guy you chase on the rooftops, and I died a million times there. And he's got the gun. It's like, this is the last. Now it's just me and the gun and the criminal or what. And they repeated that panel of him having the gun to his head for a while to suggest that he was like taking a while to actually pull the trigger. And that was a very comic book thing to do, not a video game thing to do. And I noticed that too. It's like, oh wow, this isn't just, we don't have money to keep doing cutscenes in 3D. Let's do comic books. Wouldn't it be cool if the story was a comic book graphic novel style thing too?
I love every time they talk about the cold and there's some line, you know, cold as hell, cold as a gun. The gun was a frozen lump of metal in my fist.
Cold.
They really, towards the end of this game, they get so poetic with like the snowstorm, where it's like every time something happens, they're talking about like how the snowstorm's energy is matching the emotional feeling in the room. Great stuff. There's a part where Max reads tarot cards.
Oh, so good, dude.
He goes in and he reads tarot, and I'm like, Max Payne, tarot card reader.
He knew all what they meant and what the order they came out in, what that meant.
He has a very literal reading of them. He's like, I guess the tower is this building that we're in, and I'm the devil.
Yeah, he was, I'm the cool one, and the villain is the stupid one. Time to go.
Listeners at home, you might not know, Haley is Canadian, so this question will only make sense if you know that ahead of time. Haley, have you ever heard of, this is like a big American thing that happened, 9/11?
Fucking God. No, what's
big
that?
thing in American history.
I feel like you guys never talk about that or bring it up. Or...
No, this show doesn't address 9/11 in any way.
Yeah, you know what? You're going to have to Google that on your own time.
Have you heard of the Halifax explosion?
Is that? No.
Exactly.
That's like the biggest, isn't that the one that's like the biggest non-nuclear explosion?
After Hiroshima, yeah.
Or Hiroshima was nuclear, so yeah, the biggest traditional explosives.
There's one other one then, or I guess it would be the second biggest explosion after Hiroshima or something like that. Yeah, it would like.
Wait, hold on.
I've definitely explained this to you on Game Query.
Let's put the pin in 9/11 for a second. 9/11 not important currently. What do you mean the second? What do you mean the second biggest explosion that took human life?
It's some second biggest something explosion. I can't remember the exact vernacular.
The world's largest pre-atomic explosion is what it was, but it was the largest boom that happened pre-nukes.
What happened?
It was in 1917. A French cargo ship called the Mont Blanc collided with a Norwegian vessel in Nova Scotia, and it was laden with high explosives, caught fire, and exploded. It was 2.9 kilotons of TNT. Nearly all structures in a half-mile radius, including the community of Richmond, were obliterated. A pressure wave snapped trees, bent iron rails, demolished buildings, grounded vessels, and scattered fragments of the Mont Blanc for kilometers.
Yeah, people like kilometers away were looking out their window and went blind because the glass shattered into their eyes.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was dark.
That's real.
This is honestly some real Blake history. You might have read something about this and forgot about it.
That's crazy, dude.
I told him about it. I'm 100% sure.
Well, so
tangent.
On September 11th, 2001, some shit kind of went down here.
Yeah, where were you going with that?
Well, the two towers are all over this game.
That's
right?
what I wanted to say. I
so,
feel like for people our age, obviously the Twin Towers are symbolic, but like I kind of forgot that they were an icon pre 9/11. Like they were they were the tallest buildings in the world for a little bit. I had like playing this game, which came out I believe August 2001, so it's like they didn't get to do the thing other games did where they like cut them out. It's like, oh, they're just all over this thing, and it's like very strange as someone my age to play it. Granted, I like have vague memories of 9/11. But like, be like, oh yeah, for a little while they were just like buildings that were like kind of cool, kind of like the Empire State Building. You know what I'm saying?
It's weird to see media that still has them in there. It hits different. Yeah. It makes you realize, oh God, where have we come since this was made? It makes you realize how old it is.
Do you know the Muppets 9/11 thing?
What? No. What's that?
We lost so many Muppets that day. It was really sad. It was really tragic.
There is a Muppets. I guess it's like Muppets Christmas Carol, or No, I think it's not, because it's more like A Wonderful Life. But there's a Muppet special where Kermit sees what the world would be like if he was never born. But then in that footage, the trade centers are in it. And so it's like...
And it's a post 9/11 production.
I mean, it was like, I think it was like right around the time, and they just didn't take them out or whatever. But like... It is like Kermit, if you were never born, the towers would still be standing.
That's crazy.
What is his complicity?
Well, would you go back in time and kill baby Kermit the Frog?
Absolutely not.
Remember Metal Gear Solid 2 where it's like very obvious they just took a massive chunk out of that game because the Twin Towers were in it? Crazy shit. Anyway.
Remember Lilo and Stitch had to reanimate like a 5-minute sequence because it had them going through like the city center of Hawaii in their spaceship. Yeah. And then it like hitting planes and stuff, and they re-edited it so they were just flying through a canyon instead, and it apparently took months and months.
But also, like, originally, it was a hijacked plane. And they, like, reanimated it so it looked like a spaceship. But it was like, Stitch hijacks a plane and is driving it through, like, downtown Honolulu or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy stuff. A lot of things changed on 9/11. You know, people don't say this enough.
Can we stay on 9/11 for just a quick second?
It wouldn't be a Something Rotten episode if we didn't.
When was the first time you remembered 9/11 jokes happening? Because it was like, obviously... Haley, I don't know. Maybe in Canada it was like September 12th.
We
y'all
never
were, like,
joke
dunking.
about it.
I'm just like, Jacob, do you remember the first time you heard a 9/11 joke and your brain had to do the calculation?
I mean, I was in elementary school, so I assumed that it was like a week after it happened. Like, kids are monsters.
That's probably
it's
true.
like we didn't have empathy. We didn't know like what was important to not joke about or whatever.
I don't remember that. I feel like very distinctly I remember it being on Family Guy. Like there was a moment Family Guy did a joke about it, and I was like, oh.
That's like the origin of Too Soon.
Maybe.
Pretty much.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's like, what was the first, I don't enjoy South Park, but like South Park is often kind of first on the scene for like how quickly can we make fun of something or what. Well, Haley, I don't mean to put you on the spot saying like, I don't like South Park, but you do, but like you're a South Park fan, right? Like, have they done like 9/11 things?
They must have. I mean, I don't watch... I said that's such a dumb thing I want to follow up. I say I don't watch any of their new stuff as if they're only doing it now. Not back in the day. They've got to have. I would imagine it's a whole arc, one season. I just have blocked it out of my memory knowing them.
Wait, is this a bit? Are you a South Park fan?
Me?
Yo.
I've watched a lot of South Park, yeah.
Oh.
You were just talking about you beat that goddamn snowball game. That makes you a South Park fan by default.
That makes me. I can't even run away from the label now.
Haley, have you ever seen the show Kenny vs. Spinny? It's a Canadian show.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I've never watched it. But yeah, I've definitely heard of that.
It's a Canadian show. I just been watching a lot of it recently.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah. Well, I watched it as a kid, and then I've been showing my partner Kenny vs. Spinny, and she's obsessed with it now because it's like,
you like Trailer Park Boys?
No, that's
like
too.
Trailer Park Boys.
That's too Canadian for me. I
that's
can't
filmed
do
like
that.
an hour and a half for me.
No, Kenny vs. Spinny is like a contest, like a contest show where they fucking hate each other, and so they're like, and it's just we can talk about it off air. I'm sorry, Jacob. Jacob's not Canadian. He doesn't understand this.
No, sorry. I'm on the Wikipedia page. Humor based on the September 11th attacks. This is. I feel like I do remember hearing that this happened because Gilbert Gottfried always kind of first to make a controversial joke. 18 days after the attacks, he said at the roast of Hugh Hefner, he said, "I have to catch a flight to California. I can't get a direct flight. They said they have to stop at the Empire State Building first."
Wow.
That's
which is 2 weeks. Pretty soon. Apparently, South Park did do an episode in November 2001, but it wasn't. It seemed more about like the panic that America was going through. In this Wikipedia summary, it does not seem that there was like an explicit 9/11 joke. More just like kids have to go to school in gas masks because everyone is scared.
I'm looking at one. Is it Mystery of the Urinal Deuce?
That one was in 2006, and that one they make fun of conspiracy theories about the attacks, according to Wikipedia. Family Guy, that one is there's a Family Guy episode from 2011 where Brian tips off his past self so that present day him can play the hero and stop the attacks, and then George Bush loses re-election. That's it. Oh, okay. Look, I'm sorry to the listeners, but this is what we're doing now. The DVD release of season 5 of Family Guy, first aired in 2007, contained an extended scene which was removed from the episode. In the deleted scene, while traveling in time back to the 80s, Brian is confronted by the boyfriend of a woman he's been hitting on. In response to the boyfriend's challenge that he will fight Brian anywhere, anytime, Brian invites the man to meet him on top of the World Trade Center September 11th, 2001.
That's crazy, dude.
But that was in 2007, so that's still 6 years afterwards.
When do you think was when was the first Pearl Harbor drop? You know what I'm saying? Like when did I don't know, Red Skelton come on TV and be like, hey, Pearl Harbor? More like, and then they would say a joke.
Then say a really good joke.
So, yeah.
So 3 days after.
Blake, I don't know.
So anyway, the Twin Towers are in this game, and it was really interesting as someone who's 30 years old to play it and be like, oh yeah, they used to not be an icon of, American interventionism and security theater. They used to just be buildings what are tall and cool. And that was fascinating for me.
Yeah, I also think just in terms of what we talked about so much in the first episode of the kind of altered feeling of a city that this game has, where it feels very real, but not like any city that's ever existed. It really lends to this idea of fictionalized New York City, which is all noir and all dark and neon signs. And in that version, the Twin Towers are still standing.
For sure. And there's actually some lines about New York in here that were kind of interesting in the second half, where Max talks about I couldn't remember the last time I saw the sun. At night, the city's different, and he calls it Noir York City or something really dumb.
He sure does. He basically says, hey, in Alan Wake 2, you're going to go to here. You're going to spend a lot of time in this city.
But it's actually kind of interesting. It's an interesting concept because, any city feels very different. There's, a kind of an interesting Thor High Heels video about his small town and liminal spaces where he, just takes shots around at night. And it's, really interesting to think of, Max Payne set on the same streets that would be normal one day, but because it's nighttime, they're full of Valkyr addicts that this weirdo has to go murder. I thought that was a cool concept.
And it is, I like any game that kind of takes place in one night. I think there's a time difference before the last level.
I never even considered.
I did Google it, and it's 3 days. Because I was curious, too, if it was one night. And apparently someone did the math based on what the context clues, and it's over the course of 3 days.
But it certainly feels like it's when he, in that last thing, he says something at the end, a long night wasn't over yet. And it's the very kind of they wink at the camera and say, Max Payne 2, it's coming soon. But they know that they are kind of leaving it in the middle of the night means that the story is not over yet.
I'm fairly certain Max Payne 3 would be the first time any Max Payne anything was ever in the day. Well, I mean, we'll see playing Max Payne 2, but I'm fairly certain that game is also only night. I think the opening of Max Payne 3 would be the first time you ever saw the character in the sunlight. Pretty interesting.
And he's been wearing sunglasses all day in that game, too.
That's true.
He's in the fucking sunny Sao Paulo.
Are there any other games where the main character's face has been different in all 3 iterations?
Do you mean not just the graphics get better, but
right,
he looks
1, 2,
different.
and 3? They're clearly different people.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed, because you're playing as 3 different guys.
Oh, yeah, and when you play Madden, NFL, any of them, you're playing as 8 different guys all at the same time. And the dude's in the crowd. Shut the fuck up,
Call
Jacob.
of Duty, shoot a man. You're
That's
a million different
the most
guys.
annoying thing you've ever said.
I thought you were going to ask other games that take place kind of all in one night, because I was actually thinking about the Arkham games.
Oh,
which
sure,
all of those canonically are even though you can play those games for like 20 hours, they all take place over the course of one night, or like each one night. Yeah, but I really like how committed they are to the night aesthetic. I don't, you certainly don't feel like a day scene is missing from this game. There's a good line where he says, out in the night, snow fell like confetti over the Devil's Parade."
Yes, that was the one I was thinking of when I said
not as good as the Devil's Dandruff.
There are so many good ones like that I'm just like, dude, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
every time.
It's like when we get into more of the story stuff, there were a couple. There was one that I was like legitimately extremely impressed by, where I was just like, oh, that's a good fucking line. But first, Max Payne gets drugged. They shoot him up with Valkyr, and then you have maybe the most famous scene in this game, certainly the most famous kind of like Remedy Easter egg thing, where Max realizes he's in a video game.
Yes. Oh, I loved that. I got so excited. I was like, they're doing this so early. Look at them. It's so fun to play Alan Wake 2, where it's just like 90% of what they're trying to do is meta stuff, and just be like, this one little Easter egg is our meta experiment. I'm like, they're gonna become such nerds for that and do that so much more.
Haley, I'm so glad you said that, because like playing a lot of Max Payne feels like you're playing through like a developer getting its sea legs, but it's like playing this specific moment, I was like, there it is. That's the exact moment they found what a Remedy game was.
Yes.
And it rocked so hard landing on that.
And it was just the quickest little tiny thing. And I was like, yes, there. Like, that's it. That's what I'm looking for.
What I thought was interesting is I had heard about this line where he says something like, oh, it was a green line in my brain. I couldn't ignore UI, layouts of guns. I was in a video game. Funny as hell is the worst thing I could think of. But immediately before that, he has the same monologue about being in a graphic novel. They actually do it twice.
Yeah.
And the writing in the graphic novel panel is so good because it's gibberish.
Yes.
And it's so fun. It's like, it's almost like you gave the script to an AI and said, say it back to me. Like, just little parts of it are wrong. And it's like really cool.
And the words are I think that's because in the graphic novel panel, they can do that thing where the speech bubbles cut off with all the words, but you can't do that in a video game. So that's why it sounded like that when he's thinking about only the graphic novel side instead of the game side. And I definitely Googled those two panels and stared at them side by side and thought about them a lot.
That rocks, dude. And then you get to the next part of this level and it's fucking terrible. And it makes you forget all the good shit that happened.
Just before that, I did wonder in this what the first instance of kind of like repeated runs through the same room were in games, because this has another thing that I think of as very Remedy, which is you kind of do multiple loops and then you end in the same place, where it's like you walk out the door to the room and you come back into the same room. And obviously it's like Control does that, Alan Wake does that. There are a lot of games that you can think of now that do that. But I wonder, it's like, it's kind of like when you run up the stairs in Mario and it turns out you're not going anywhere. But like, I couldn't think of kind of other earlier examples of games playing with space like that. But I'm sure I'm just missing some.
Oh, I feel like there's one on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember what it is.
But anyway, yeah, there's another blood maze, and it's bad. And Haley, again, playing this without quick saves, good God.
And also with the joystick, I was going like, like one step at a time. At least this one. The second one at least was slow-mo style, so that did make it feel a bit easier than the first one, which wasn't. But good Lord.
There was, on PC, there's a bug that is, as far as I can tell, not fixed with the mods. And it's in, when you boot up the game, you have a little boot screen that gives you a few options. You have to change your acceleration. Don't know what the fuck that is, but you have to do it here to even be able to make that. Except Jacob somehow worked his way into it. I couldn't. And funny enough, I had to do that same trick later in the game. So anyone playing along, if you're stuck in certain parts and it seems like jumping is the solution, change your acceleration.
Was the other part that you struggled with that part where the stairway is broken
Oh
and you had
my
to
God.
that part fucking I did not figure it out. I think I made like a pixel perfect jump because it seemed broken that I just could not make it.
I struggled over and over with it, changed my acceleration, did it first try. It was crazy. Haley, did you have issues with these?
Yes. Oh my God. I went
Wow.
around and did that jump again probably 50 times to the point that I was like, this isn't what I'm supposed to do. And I went and tried every other door again 5 times. I was like, no, I must.
I just looked up a walkthrough and I was like, well, that guy made the jump. Like, what
Jacob,
am
I think I
doing
watched
wrong?
the exact same fucking video and I was like, what is this bullshit? And then it's funny, if you change the acceleration, it kind of breaks the rest of the game, so you have to do it for just the second you need it on PC, quick
That's
save.
hilarious.
Then back out, change it again, because it totally destroys, like, at least on my PC, the frame rate, the aiming, everything. It's fucked. It's crazy.
But there is, in that blood maze, okay, so last time we talked about, and Haley, I'm interested in your take on this. When you're in those dreams, you hear the kind of like echoes of the baby crying, but also your wife kind of pleading, and she is pleading with you, like with Max, to not kill her and saying like, I'm sorry, Max, I'm sorry. And I kind of wondered in that first section, it's like, what is this just Max's internalized guilt, or was there, like, how much is this kind of like, I don't know, is there an abuse dynamic? Is there whatever? And then in this section, when you complete the blood maze and you kind of go into your like child's room or whatever, and you like kill yourself. Like there's a Max Payne there and you shoot him down. And I think Blake said in the last episode that like probably the game is not doing anything more than just it's his guilt, but like it's weird how much they put on like, Max, this is your fault.
I really thought that it was going to be some twist where he was taking that drug the night that his wife and baby died
Right.
and killed them, and made up a thought in his head that junkies were in the house and he shot them or something. Like, I thought that's what they were doing too, but then when, he comes to and that isn't what happened, I thought, oh yeah, it must just be his guilt. But I don't know, is there a way that would work within the plot of this? Probably not, because if we're Max and we're following him and his internal monologue, it would be pretty annoying for us to then not have the knowledge that he's like, oh yeah, I killed my wife. I just forgot this whole time.
They call that the heavy rain.
Oh, the worst. That would just be the worst way to write this kind of game.
Yeah, but I thought that was, another little just kind of like, oh, it's a cerebral twist. But like those lines by Max's wife are really,
they're convincing,
disconcerting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was confused by that part too. I kind of just thought about it for a minute, moved on, and hoped that it was just what you're saying, the guilt thing, and then the rest of the game seemed to track with that too. I didn't get more lost, but if it wasn't Remedy, I'd be like, they probably just made it feel trippy because he's on drugs. Whoa, that's me over there, and I shot me. But because it's Remedy, I'm like, no, they probably had a reason, but I don't really know what it was.
I feel like Max Payne 2 and 3 do more with Max as a character, like getting into his psychology. Granted, 3 was mostly written by Dan Houser, I believe. But I don't know. Like, I thought about it again, Jacob, when we got to the second maze here, and I just still am not sure that's what the wavelength this game's operating on. Because
I think you're right. It's interesting for a game that is not on that wavelength.
For sure.
To do so much with it.
For sure. I really think it's more of a product of like, are drugs crazy? Like that like narrative trick, like, can you believe our drug sucks? It's not fun.
Are they trying
Which is always a funny thing when there's like a drug epidemic or whatever.
It's
in
like,
media
why are people taking this? Don't they know that like heroin exists? You don't have to take Valkyrie.
So
Do you think
funny.
they're maybe saying something like, all the people that try to kill you when they're on this drug think they're killing themselves? Question mark?
Which,
That'd be
it's
kind
not
of...
Yeah, they're living out their own personal hells.
Yeah.
That's like not how drugs work. The reason your
so
brain
fair.
craves them is because they feel good. I think you would reject them if they felt terrible. It's very funny.
Well, so what is this is one of the like big conspiracy things, because we find out that Valkyr is part of this like military effort. Project Valhalla, this government military outreach thing, somehow involved in Valkyr. Are they distributing it like for some reason? You know, is it because I was kind of like, okay, is this like the US government, you know, secretly putting drugs into like poor communities or something, or is it just
Well, I think it's inspired by that, but like they were doing Valkyr and then it was defunded, but then the HBIC, big bad lady, she was like, no, I'm going to keep doing it. She was who started distributing it through New York because she was like, I'm going to keep the experiment going for whatever nefarious reasons.
Right. Okay. Because I'm seeing on the Wikipedia plot summary, it was an experiment to improve soldiers' stamina and morale through chemical enhancements, but it wasn't working. But for some reason, Nicole Horn wanted to do it.
Yeah, why? How is she experimenting when she's just giving it to people who run away from her on the street and freak out? How is that an experiment?
Right. I also love that it's like one of those moments where it's like, why wouldn't they just kill him?
Oh my god!
Why would they drug him and then just like go away and let him go back and kill another 100 people?
And say where they're going as he passes out. Like, it's like, just shut up and leave and shoot him with a gun. Hello?
I do love another kind of classic Remedy thing is when you get to this government computer and it starts explaining Norse mythology to you. It was just like, Valhalla, the belief that when a warrior dies, they will enter a heaven state. And I was like, this is on a government computer? This just like 5th grade book report on what Valhalla is?
I like the voice that read that out to me too. I was like, this is a good voice. I also really liked when he got to her computer and he just shot the monitor, like only one of 2 monitors. He's like, I didn't want to read about this anymore. And I'm like, what was that for? That didn't do anything. It was so dumb.
There's also a weird line where he's like, there'd be government secrets, CIA secrets, porno, FBI secrets.
What was the porno? Was he saying her porn was on the computer and he could watch what she's into?
I think that's the implication. And I think the further implication is it would be illegal porn. But it is like the way it's written is like, oh man, that's crazy. There's a lot of secrets on there. Also, like her porn, who gives a shit, my dude?
Porn,
like,
and he
I
says
don't care.
Porno, which I'm like, ew.
Well, you can. It's a 2001 game, so it's porn is still like, you know, print, physical media, and internet.
Porno?
No. It's funnier, he calls it internet porno. Like, there's a distinction because it's 2001. This was new shit. Now, porn is just porn. It's on the internet, basically, only. Yeah. But, like, back then, it was totally different. You had your magazines, your VHSs, your DVDs. That I love that he, like, draws a line. He's like, internet it's on the computer.
Porno.
It'd be internet porno. And I'm like, yeah, Max, fuck yeah, dude. It's such a funny line to just be like, also, that's on that computer.
I know. I was going to get that.
There's another line before getting into the ones that I really liked. There's a news report where it's talking about the Horns company that's like it's doing really well. The stocks keep going up, and they're like, chances are it'll be an even bigger monopoly than Microsoft. And it's like they kind of do a little static, but it's so obvious they're saying Microsoft. And I was like, were they not allowed to say this?
It's giving when like Family Guy makes fun of Fox or something like that kind of energy. Is like, haha, we said it. It's like, yeah, okay.
But my favorite line in the game from like, you know, an actual respect point is when you find out that they did kill his wife, like, you know, that it is these people who were responsible for his wife's death. And he says, he's reading the file. He says, the drop-off point was my old address in New Jersey. The file dated 3 years ago. Just when you thought you had reached the deepest depths of horror, it suddenly got worse. How to turn off that small voice inside your head that started to whisper, you should be glad that now, if not before, your revenge was justifiable on any conceivable moral scale. That small voice proved beyond any doubt that I was damned. And it's just like, when he said that, I got chills of like your revenge being justifiable on any conceivable moral scale is just such a fucking hard line.
Yeah, that was so good because so much of this game is just like Max is a human being who is angry, and that's just how you're supposed to resonate with him. And the longer the story goes, the less his morality seems to make sense. But then they give you that checkpoint to be like, no, it does.
Yeah, but I think what's so like cool about it and what's so clever is that like Max didn't know that. You know, what he's kind of realizing there is like, okay, now I am justified in having killed all these hundreds of people, but like I was doing that before I knew, you know, that he is this kind of bastard who is going through gunning people down, and then he kind of finds out that he's justified for doing it. But like, you know, in realizing that, you also realize that he was like maybe not justified before then, and he was still doing it because he's just a killer, you know, and that's kind of what he does.
Would we judge the same person who did it for the good moral reason as Max, who just happened to stumble into the good moral reason at the end of his actions? Yeah, that's interesting.
The other line that I thought was like crazy, but I really liked was, I'm pulling it up now. He says, "You piece together a jigsaw puzzle, and the final picture is you finishing that same puzzle. A mad, green-eyed killer standing behind you. The urban legend come true."
That one stood out. Yeah, that one stood out to
crazy.
me. It's so good.
That's like more of that like meta narrative vibe thing. Because then it was like I was like, is he talking about me? Like, I think he's talking about me.
I just love, you piece together a jigsaw, and the final picture is you finishing that same puzzle. It's so cool. All right, so then you escape. There's this whole self-destruct sequence with this military base that I actually think is pretty fun as far as self-destruct sequences go. I really enjoyed it. You meet with this another like, this conspiracy goes all the way to the top. You meet with this just like random cabal of dudes, one of whom, his glasses are an eye patch. Like, one of the shades of his glasses is darker than the other. And he says, you know, go kill Nicole Horn and I'll like wipe your slate clean. And then a bunch of people come in and just shoot everyone in that room. But then it turned out that the eye patch guy was just pretending to be dead. And at that point, I was kind of like, I'm losing the thread here. I don't know what's going on anymore.
Part of me was like, is that eye patch guy the eye patch guy from Alan Wake 2? Like, I'm so used to wanting to connect everything together in Remedy games. I'm like, no, it's not, but I wish it was. That would have been cool.
But you do there's a great moment where there's like an explosion and you kind of somersault out the window. And I think one of the things that I was impressed by here is like, this is a 2001 game, and like the action beats hit, and I don't have to like put myself in 2001 brain to like be excited by the scene of him like somersaulting out of a window. I think that it's still like pretty well choreographed.
Yeah, but doesn't he also have a really funny line where he's like, it was only the second story though?
Oh, he says the first story. He says like, I was lucky.
It's really funny.
That is funny.
You know what playing this game made me realize though? Metal Gear Solid 2 came out the same year, right?
Yep.
How crazy is it that Metal Gear Solid 2 looks like that?
You're saying looks
just visually
better?
I mean, I think Max Payne looks great and I love it, but like, how crazy is it that Metal Gear Solid 2 looks like that and came out in 2001? We didn't appreciate that enough when this is what other 2001 games look like.
Silent Hill 2. Also,
that's
how crazy is that Silent Hill 2 came out in 2001.
Right. Something was in the water at Konami. Their games looked nuts back then.
Fun that games back then that went for a style as opposed to realism are the ones that still look really good, because style doesn't need to have fidelity.
I think, one of the interesting things with Max Payne, which is still kind of a Remedy thing, is like, it's kind of tech over money, if that makes sense, because it's like Max Payne graphically looks really good, and like all of the kind of like bullet impacts, and like when you're fighting, there's that scene where you're fighting at the bottom of the apartment building and it's literally just the Matrix lobby scene, and you're like diving between pillars and everything's blowing up and it looks great. But like when you look at Metal Gear Solid 2, you're like, this is money on screen. You know, like what the cutscenes look like in terms of animation, in terms of like just asset creation and whatever, you can really tell the difference where it's like,
for sure,
Remedy's a really technically accomplished studio, but like Kojima had fucking bank that he was putting into those cutscenes that Max Payne just doesn't have.
And what's funny is that bank probably would not pay for a roll of toilet paper at most AAA studios these days. These games too damn expensive.
Yeah, it was. Well, we know it cost $10 million.
Yeah,
it's like barely a AA game.
And then they put $100 million or something into Max Payne 3. Like as soon as the IP went to a AAA, they were just like, pour money in it.
Yeah, well, it went to Rockstar. It went to the biggest AAA.
I'm glad you brought up the Matrix connection there, Jacob, because let me tell you about the mod scene for Max Payne 1 in 2001. There was so certainly a Matrix 1 lobby shootout mod that I did have and I did play, and it was so fucking sick. You played as Neo, you had a trench coat, the dudes ran out. It was the coolest shit in the world, and it is literally burned into my memory, that one mod. I think about it all the time. I thought about it so many times playing.
Did you mod it back in the day?
I tried. I have a very specific memory of trying to make a mod and be like, "What? This is how games are made." Fuck
I could
this
only
shit.
figure out how to mod things like 2 years ago.
It's like, people are like building their own levels and shit, and it was really sick. Like this is a really cool period. I mean, I know mods still exist and everything, but like being a kid playing a game and then realizing other people had made more game was like crazy. And
especially when you have one game a year a lot of times. Yeah.
I mean, what is true about Max Payne that isn't true about games now is like they released a level editor.
For sure.
It's like those mods existed because they were like, here's our engine. You can make stuff.
Well, it was 3D Realms that was attached to this game, right? Like it was Remedy, 3D Realms, and Rockstar was helping with publishing, and 3D Realms was the Duke Nukem developer. Like they were born out of like shareware and everything. So like it makes sense that they would like be kind of not open source with it, but you know what I mean, like very open with like people making shit. And I remember being like fucking mind blown. I don't remember if I'd seen The Matrix by this point, but I know as a kid I thought The Matrix was the coolest shit ever, and now as an adult I know that The Matrix is the coolest shit ever. And I remember playing this mod being like, that's fucking so sick. And I hope it still exists. I hope I can find it and download it and play it again.
I think you can. I'm on the Mod Nexus page just looking up Max Payne. One of the best ones is in Guitar Hero World Tour. You can just download a Max Payne 1 character model.
Nice.
Did I even talk about like what the process of playing games back then was for me and my dad? So we didn't have the internet until I think I was in high school. Maybe a little bit before. So like we didn't have Max Payne. We had a burnt copy of Max Payne on a CD that my dad's coworker had given him, and we would play it that way. But like to get mods, because my dad worked at Kinko's, he would have to download them at Kinko's onto like floppy disks or CDs. We'd have to bring them home and install them. So it was this all like a what would the word be? Protracted experience of waiting. Like maybe you'd read about something, or my dad would read about it on the internet at work, or we'd see it in a magazine. Then I'd have to wait for him to go to work and do that, like find it, get it, bring it back, and install it that way. And then, I don't know, even make sure it even worked. We used to have these huge binders. You could never do this now because of fucking DRM, whatever the hell they put in games that don't let you do this shit now. With these huge binders of every fucking game ever. I remember I'd just be like flip through it and be like 40 sleeves of just like No One Lives Forever and Battlefield and early Call of Duties. It was the sickest shit ever.
No, I remember, Blake, like when I first experienced CD-DRM, because I did the same thing where it's like my friend has a game, so I'm just gonna burn that CD and then I'll have a game, and that worked until it didn't on like Lego Star Wars 2 or something, where I like burned it to a disc and it takes hours, and then you put it in your PC and it's like it doesn't work, and I was like, why doesn't it work? And it was because they figured out how to make you not able to burn the game. But I was doing the same thing, though not with mods. That's really cool.
It was such a cool fucking time. I would give anything to go back and play Deus Ex 1.
It's weird how we pine for when things were harder, because it was just more rewarding.
Yeah, it's like, I don't miss it, but I am glad that I had it as a child.
I low-key kind of miss it though. Like I'll think of Blockbuster, like, oh, we have to drive over there to watch a movie tonight. Like, it sucked to have to do that, but it hit so different.
I also think Blockbuster was better than this current state of streaming.
I think it was because we lived in the last like gasp of God. We were talking about this on last season's bonus episode with books, right? Like we were talking about like going into a bookstore and not knowing what you're gonna buy, and it's like I never get that with games. And it's like because we were the last guy. I can go on Twitter and know about 800 new games as soon as we get off this call. But when I was a kid, games were just blank CDs with Sharpie on them.
Yeah.
And it's like, who fucking knew what you were going to put in there? You'd be like, Mafia? Cool, man. You just stick it in.
I do
it's
think
all
you're also just remembering being a child. Like, I think kids now are not as plugged into, like, what a game is. Here's a note that I made about Max Payne. He always answers the phone in a cool way.
Yeah.
Especially when he uses the gun.
Oh, yeah. Well, when he's hallucinating,
yeah.
he's holding his gun. But he picks it up and someone says Max Payne, and he says right the first time.
Yeah.
And then someone later someone says Max Payne, and he says whatever does it for you. And I was like, that fucking rules.
It's crazy. That's what Sam Lake's voice sounds like, and he is from Espoo, Finland.
Yeah.
Good accent.
So, there's a Mona scene. Mona's role in this game kind of confusing, where we meet her earlier in the game. She immediately roofies us, leaves. Then we meet her later. She appears to get shot in the head, falls back into like an elevator, and then the elevator doors open and she's not there anymore. And I know from Blake's mod history that she is in the second game, but like,
yeah, when you said there's a mod of her naked in the part 2, that's the first time I was like, oh, she's alive. Like,
is she a corpse?
I didn't know that.
The bullet's important in the second game. Don't worry about it, guys. The bullet's important.
But it is.
We'll
I
learn
mean, it is
more
funny
about Mona
because
later. I don't. Who the fuck? I'm sorry, Jacob. Who the fuck is Mona's sister, though?
Why
that
did she have a
was
twin?
lost on me.
Why did she have a twin?
That was complete. She's so superfluous to this game. There's no reason for her to be in here.
Is it just so they have a similar common anger towards this drug because her sister got killed the same way? Is that the only? But why a twin?
I have no clue, man.
I don't know.
It's really, it's like, she's kind of the one woman in the game other than Sam Lake's mom who you kill at the end.
But she's the boss lady. I was impressed by that.
Yeah, girl boss.
She was a girl boss.
Distributing drugs throughout New York City. But it is just, it's like we talked in the first bit, it's like everyone Max Payne meets, if they're friendly towards him or not, dies almost immediately after meeting him. And Mona was kind of the one exception. And I was like, oh wait, no, I guess she does get shot in the head, but she's not dead, so it's okay.
Oh, so her sister married Angelo Punchinello.
Pancetta.
Oh, sure.
Mona hated Angelo for abusing and torturing his sister and was willing to accept.
Because you find the body,
right?
And he says like, I couldn't tell if it was Mona or her sister because like the face was so messed up.
Yeah, and then she was a contract killer
hired by the boss lady.
That's
Warren,
right?
The boss lady.
So there you go. That's
sequel to
that's
the
her
boss
whole
baby.
thing.
Yeah, so then the last level is you get the same. It is fun to realize that you're where the game started because the game starts in this giant skyscraper and the camera does a similar thing where it zooms down and you're like, oh baby, here we go. Here's the skyscraper. I like this section other than some bullshit rooms, some guys with grenade launchers. Like the combat it is hard. But it's fun. And like we said, the lady yelling at you over the speakers the whole time is just gold.
I love that.
There's a part where you're in a helicopter or you're in an elevator, and then in like real time, a helicopter comes and starts shooting at the elevator, and I was very impressed. I was like, this is some Call of Duty ass like set piece.
Don't sell it short. You have to jump out of your elevator into a different elevator and keep going down.
Sick.
Like it's fucking cool, man.
Though there's also a confusing part where an elevator shows up and is just shooting into the room you're in, and you just have to hide for like 5 minutes, and then the elevator flies or the helicopter flies away.
It was so obvious where to run too. It's not like it's like a hack. Like if you stand 1 millimeter left of this pole, it doesn't hit you. Like there's an obvious giant partition, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
it just way too long that it shot at. I was like, this is kind of Dumb.
I did, in my kind of fascination with game objects with geometry that's like as big as they actually are, I really appreciated that if you fall off the skyscraper, you fall all the way to the ground. You know, it's not like a
Really?
kind of thing where it fades out as you're falling. It's like it is the real size of the skyscraper, and it lets you fall until you hit the ground, and then
Wow.
you restart.
That is cool.
And then there's this last scene, or this last kind of boss fight where you don't just shoot the lady with a gun, which I was wondering. I was like, are they just gonna shoot her? Instead, you knock a radio tower down on her helicopter, and I had to kind of look up what to do because I shot the cables, and then I was like, what happens? And you have to shoot the mast with a grenade or something.
Yeah.
But I thought the like slow-mo mast falling on the helicopter, knocking the whole thing off the building looked pretty sick.
It looked good. Like, it was very much giving Uncharted if this was early Uncharted, you know? Like, doing set pieces before it was cool, and they actually looked and functioned well. Like, yeah, the helicopter bit, especially when you hop outside and you're running along the side, and then the helicopter shows up and shoots at you when you're coming in between those two rooms. That was really cool too, and that felt so realized in an actual moment in time instead of just a cutscene you watch.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree that the grenade, you have to shoot it with a grenade. I was like, okay, I had to Google that too. I was like, why isn't it falling? I shot all the cables.
Right, because they highlight the cables so clearly.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, see these, shoot these, but then you do it and it doesn't fall down.
Yeah.
Blake, this last section, I mean, so you had God mode on, but was it still like thrilling? You know, were you hyped up fighting through this tower?
Did you have fear in your heart?
Dude, there was a moment that was so fucking funny for me. Actually, there was a moment in the level before this. I learned the God mode will break. Did you all see the elevator where the guy drops the grenade? The grenade explodes,
Yes.
then he drops down. If you're standing in that elevator when the floor drops and he drops down after the grenade, this makes sense.
Yeah.
It will kill you, no matter what you have turned on. Also, leaving God mode on was a mistake. That I turned it on to get past that cutscene, and then thought I turned it off.
And you just
But-
thought you were awesome at the game.
I removed the developer controls,
Oh.
but I didn't type in the developer So you have to turn developer mode on, and then you have to type codes in, and those are two different things. I turned the developer mode off and forgot to turn God mode off. So I was just stuck with it the rest of the game. And I was like, fuck it. It actually took me forever to figure out. I was like, I'm so good at this game. And then there came a point where I was like, I'm clearly should be dead right now.
That's super
Anyway,
funny.
to answer your question, Jacob, there was a moment in this last level that was so fucking funny because of having God mode on. There's a room where there's just like 7 red lasers connected to
Resident Evil
connected to
4
bombs.
Like strip
style.
mines or
and
something.
there was a guy at the end of it shooting me, and I said, "Oh no, sir," and I just walked straight and let the bombs blow up.
His inner monologue
got
was like,
directly in front
Jesus
of him.
Christ, this guy's
Yeah.
a god.
I just got right in front of him and just shotgunned him in the head, and I was like, "That's probably the scariest way anyone has ever died ever." It's a blast. No, I love Max Payne, and I wanted to continue loving it, so I did not want to be frustrated by it. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't want to have that experience. And so when I realized I had God mode still on, I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna do this as a power fantasy, the way it probably did not feel as a kid, but I remember it being. And it was so worth it, dude. I had so much fun. Just like, I was using bullet time nonstop for no reason.
Bullet
My
time's
bullets
so
weren't even
good.
hitting anything. I was just throwing grenades without even aiming. Like, I was having a blast. And this last
I
level was
think,
so good because it's like 900 dudes in every room.
I think if you're gonna play through this, you can like turning on all the cheats, just experiencing the vibes of it is a great way to do it. I also think playing on PC, downloading all the mod fixes and whatever, being able to quick save makes it really fun because, as Leo said last week, it kind of turns each room into a puzzle, and so you can kind of like, you know, when you don't have to go back at all, it is fun to kind of work it out. I would not recommend anyone play it the way that Haley did, because I do think that this
sounds
game is
terrible.
like pretty unfair, and so you just need to make it unfair in your direction as well.
Don't play it on PlayStation, even though it was dirt cheap. There's a reason.
Before we end, another great line. I parked the stolen wheels at the front entrance of the Aesir Corporation HQ, got out, got in, got cracking. I had a bullet with Nicole Horn's name on it. I had 10,000 bullets with the Hag's name on them. She had ultra-high-tech security systems, enough mercenaries and weaponry to start World War III. There was no fear. Just like, goddamn, Max, go get her, go get her.
Sam Lake, you're crushing it back then, brother.
Did it again.
It ruled. So that's, I mean, oh, look, do either of you have anything else to say about Max Payne 1?
Do you know what I like is how you can go up and just be like, beep, 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 and press things like a Fisher-Price toy.
Yeah,
I was
you can just
doing that
open
so
every
much.
drawer, push every computer.
Go up to the toilet, you're just like, flush, flush. There's a piano, and I sprinted to the piano. I was like, hell yeah! And he played the theme. I don't know, that was a fun inclusion to this.
Y'all ever played Deus Ex? Y'all gotta play that
I
game.
played the first new one.
Oh,
Human, whatever.
This came out same era. You literally click everything. It's the
Oh,
coolest
you mean
shit.
yeah, like the original Deus Ex.
Yeah.
No, but I loved because there's the whole thing in Max Payne 3 where you kind of find the piano several times and you can't quite put the theme together, and then you do at the end. And so finding the piano in this and hearing him just go like da 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 da, I was like, hell yeah.
And it was clumsy, like, so it was him playing it. I loved that.
Just to reiterate it again, I can't think of any other. Maybe it's because I'm such a lifelong fan of Remedy, and other than fucking Death Rally, I've played everything they've ever made and loved everything they've ever made. Going back to Max Payne, and be like, seeing the clear through line, like just being able to draw it like a piece of yarn on a fucking cork board through all their games,
Like a Mind
like
Palace.
Yeah. Like I don't feel like I know enough of Suda's work or Kojima's work or other games we've covered to like be going back that far to be like, oh, I get it now. Like revisiting Max Payne 20 years after the last time I touched Max Payne, but having played their entire catalog since, it was like so cool being like, oh, like everything Remedy just clicks in place a little fucking better now. Which feels invaluable, and it's like, it's awesome.
It's like learning about the childhood of a person you're dating. You're like, oh, that's why the way you are the way you are. It's really fun to do it that way.
It's like when you're watching a movie and all of a sudden 20 Simpsons jokes make 20 Simpsons jokes make sense. It's like, oh
my god, I watched Twin Peaks this year for the first time, and I love apparently everything that's inspired by Twin Peaks and just have never watched Twin Peaks. And then as soon as I watch it, I'm like, oh my god, everything I like is based on this. That's crazy.
Like, oh my god, Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, literally.
I had never like really seen the entire story because like except for when I was watching my dad play, I had to play with the parental controls on, so there was no cutscenes. So I was like, oh, that's what this game's about. All I knew was like there's a bad lady and a drug.
It let you do all the shooty bits, just not the cutscenes. That feels backwards.
As we talked about last week, he couldn't see the guy getting a blowjob that was taken out. Not allowed.
There's no blood either. The blood line you have to walk across was just a straight red line. So that's great, man. Shouts out to Max Payne. Please don't suck Max Payne 2. That's the one I liked the most.
Haley, are you gonna play Max Payne 2?
I kind of want to, especially with the remix coming out. Are you guys so excited for the remix?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the one thing that I think we have talked about already, but like James McCaffrey's voice performance is so core to Max Payne. I don't know what their plan was, if they were just going to reuse the voice lines, if they were I can't imagine they were planning on just using the audio from Max Payne 1. It's really hard for me to imagine this role being recast because I just associate his voice with the character so much.
Yeah.
Also, aren't they planning to do Max Payne 1 and 2 as one game?
That's what
which,
I read,
implies some amount of like rewriting to like rejigger those to work that way. Like, I
imagine that they'll basically cut out some of the more story superfluous levels of this. I mean, it's like there are a lot of levels of this that's like you just run around and shoot guys, and so if they want it to be more of a tight story, I could see them just kind of getting rid of those.
On the other hand, they've recast Mickey Mouse, they've recast Mario. sometimes you gotta do it. So
Yeah, it's true. I am very excited.
make
for
me
those.
Max Payne.
Make Blake Max Payne.
Hey, it's fear that gives men wings.
Pick up your phone and say something cool right now. Go.
If you ain't talking money, don't talk to me.
Better than I thought
It's
you were
Max
gonna
Payne.
do. That was pretty good.
Thank you.
Haley, if you do play Max Payne 2, I would love to come on like bonus pod, and we could do a
Yes.
little so you get another chance to talk about that.
So
Can
there's
you
a
play it
reason.
on? Can you play it on PC though, please, Haley? Like, don't torture
Yeah,
yourself.
I'll play it.
Don't-
I don't
don't
even
do
think
that.
it's on consoles. Is it? Because when I looked up Max
Oh,
Payne,
I don't know.
I looked up Max.
It's on
Payne.
Xbox
Oh,
apparently,
okay.
but like you would have to emulate it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might as well just play it on PC at that point.
Yeah.
Well, Haley, we plugged your shit at the beginning, but please, once again, tell people where they can find you, where they can get more Haley MacLean in their lives.
Yeah, my Twitter is HaleyFacts. Sam Lake's been liking a few of my tweets lately. He doesn't follow me, but he likes my tweets. I'm like,
Wow.
how are you finding me? I don't even hashtag anything.
You're popping up in
Remedy.
his For You page.
Yeah, it must be.
For You, Haley MacLean.
That's how much of a Remedy head I am. I'm popping up in Sam Lake's feed. So that's been nice. Every time he likes a tweet, I'm like run to my partner. I'm like, oh my god, look. I'm on MinMax. That's super fun. And yeah, I have a podcast now with MinMax called Bonus Pod, and Jacob was on the inaugural first episode a couple months
Hell yeah.
ago. And it's really just the MinMax show if we turned our brains off and there wasn't a structure. If we could just talk
Hell
about
yeah.
the gaps between what gets talked about on the show. So really whatever the cohorts or guests want to talk about.
Also, if you work on video games and you need legal advice,
Yeah, that too.
Haley's a goddamn lawyer, so
Yeah.
you can hit her up for that too.
I've been getting a lot of clients via the content stuff I'm doing, which is fun. It's like, hey, I
That's
saw you
awesome.
on this video. Can I ask you questions? And that's been very fun.
That's awesome.
And devs are the best to work with. More dev clients, please. They're just the sweetest and the chillest, and they give me codes, and they're nice.
Sam Lake, I heard Remedy needs a lawyer.
Sam Lake! Oh my god, I would go feral. if I
Sam Lake, lawyer up. I'm coming for you.
could. In the good way, not the bad way.
No, in the bad way. I'm suing you, ass brother.
Well, that's it for this episode of Something Rotten on Max Payne 1. Haley, thank you so much for being on. Blake, thank you for introducing this game into my life and revisiting it for yours. And until next time, I would just like to say, fuck, I'm looking for the line. I'm looking for the video game line.
Great work.
Hold on. I can't find it. Well,
Fix it in post.
I just want to say, you piece together a jigsaw, and the final picture is you finishing that same puzzle. A mad, green-eyed killer standing behind you. An urban legend come true.
Great. Bye.